And now, please welcome Director, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Jen Easterly.
I want to tell you a story. Those 7 words have been a siren song for humans since practically the dawning of civilization. Across the ages, storytelling has been the foundation of our history, our communities, our shared experiences. Stories entertain us, they educate us, they inspire us. Stories can create hope, they can motivate change, they can spark revolution. And what do all the greatest stories have in common? Unforgettable characters. The characters that you cheer for and the ones you root against. The characters you aspire to be and the ones you hope you never become. The characters that make you cringe. The ones you love and the ones you love to hate. Characters and their stories have defined our society, the issues we grapple with, the problems we solve. And today, I want to talk about the story of cybersecurity. It's a story we've been writing for decades and one in which we are all characters. And it's a story, frankly, at its crisis point. That point where the characters can change the trajectory of the story for better or for worse. And this particular story is brought to you by the letter V. All right, so let's begin with our first set of characters, the villains. These are hooded creatures operating mysteriously in the shadows. They're mythical beasts, demons from hell. We give them names that imply power and charisma. They're Nemesis Kitten, the Lazarus Group, Fancy Bear, Midnight Blizzard, Wizard Spider, Volt Typhoon. We don't, unfortunately, call them Scrawny Nuisance or Feeble Ferret or Weak Weasel, or my favorite, Doofus Dingo. No. We talk about them almost in hushed tones of awe. They're advanced persistent threats. They use sophisticated exploits or the dreaded 0 day. You know, sometimes it feels like the message is,
"You, mere mortal, you are no match for these powerful villains alone."
But you know, these villains are exactly that. They are villains. They were evil yesterday, they are evil today, and they will be evil tomorrow. And while some invest resources to develop novel exploits, most of the time they're just taking advantage of the same old vulnerabilities, and sometimes they just get lucky. These villains do not have superpowers, and we shouldn't treat them like they do. But yet we do. We glamorize these villains, and what's worse, we end up blaming our second set of characters, the victims. You know, in a strange twist of fate, we end up placing the responsibility for security at the feet of those who, while not entirely blameless, are probably the least responsible character in this story. When an incident occurs, we vocalize our disbelief. If they had only implemented the basic cybersecurity protections.
How could they?
So victims end up getting re-victimized in the aftermath of an attack. They get, even while they're going through response and recovery, they get blamed and shamed and named for not patching their software, not enrolling their employees in multi-factor authentication. And when a ransomware attack occurs, we're quick to say it was because of an employee that downloaded a malicious file or got phished into giving up their password. Well, let's be clear. Human error is only ever the starting point of an investigation, never its conclusion. It is the proximate cause, not the root cause.
Say it again, say it again, say it again.
I will, Frankie. Human error can only ever be the starting point for an investigation, never its conclusion. It is the proximate cause, not the root cause. Now, to get closer to the root cause, we have to set aside our villains and our victims and talk about our third set of characters, the vendors. Now here we are at MWise. We have cybersecurity experts and practitioners from around the world. You can find out how to protect yourself from the villains, how not to become a victim. But we have to acknowledge that the cybersecurity industry was established to fix a problem created by another set of technology vendors. I'm talking about the technology vendors that develop and deploy the software that powers our daily lives, the software that underpins the critical infrastructure that we rely upon every hour of every day for water and power and transportation and communication and healthcare and finance and so much more. Those technology vendors arguably created the cybersecurity industry. Yeah, we have a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity industry because for decades, technology vendors have been allowed to create defective, flawed, insecure software that prioritized speed to market and cool features over security, thereby requiring bolt-on cybersecurity solutions. And as we found out this summer with a massive IT outage, even cybersecurity vendors are not immune to issues of software quality and design. And that event just reinforced how ubiquitous software is and just how much we depend on it working properly. But you know what the truth is? We've unwittingly created this situation. We've actually normalized it. We've fallen for the myth of software vulnerability as an inevitable act of nature. Like a monsoon or a hurricane or a typhoon, we are powerless to prevent these unpredictable acts of God. The best we can do is just respond as rapidly as possible.
Clean up on aisle 9.
But you know, that is just not right. Frankly, it's bullshit. I want to go back to 2007. In that year, MITRE published a white paper called Unforgivable Vulnerabilities. It laid out criteria for classes of defect that would be considered unforgivable for being both easily found and easily exploited. These were products that didn't consider security at all. MITRE called them canaries in a coal mine, beacons of systematic disregard for secure development processes, products that never should have seen the light of day. And what do you think was at the top of this list? Memory safety violations and coding weaknesses leading to cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and directory traversal. Now, 16 years later, 2023, just last year, MITRE published another white paper. This one was called Stubborn Weaknesses. And what do you think was on this list? Memory safety violations and coding weaknesses leading to cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and directory traversal. And while some on this list were not as egregious as the ones in 2007, many of them were. And by now, these beacons of systematic disregard could arguably be considered negligent. Now, the vulnerabilities on this list were not jaw-dropping innovations. They were not the product of hundreds of elite researchers spending hundreds of millions of dollars. No. They were the golden oldies, the classes of defect that we have known about for decades and that we've known how to solve at scale for years. You know, Mark Twain once said, history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. But not in the world of software. In the world of software, history is repeating itself all the frickin' time. From the scourge of ransomware devastating businesses across the world to intrusions in our most sensitive critical infrastructure, the villains are attacking victims by just taking advantage of the same old vulnerabilities. We wouldn't accept these lingering defects in any other context. So why? Why do we accept them in our software? The truth is, technology vendors are the characters who are building products that open the doors for villains to attack victims, and we have to acknowledge that. You know, instead of using words like software vulnerability, which really diffuses responsibility, we should call them product defects, to name the problem more directly and to emphasize just how important it is for technology vendors to design and develop and test and deploy products to dramatically drive down the number of exploitable defects. And instead of blaming victims for failing to patch their software, why don't we ask, why did that software require so many urgent patches? You know, the truth is, we need to demand more. We need to demand more of ourselves, and we need to demand more of technology vendors as the customers of technology. Because despite efforts and significant progress in catalyzing collaboration between the federal government and the private sector, despite the fact that CEOs and boards are increasingly embracing corporate cyber responsibility and treating cyber risk as a core business risk, despite efforts like Secure Our World to highlight the importance of implementing basic cyber hygiene, despite programs like the Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog or reporting from the Cyber Safety Review Board, despite the fact that our community is stronger and better connected than ever before, despite the multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity industry, we still have a multi-trillion-dollar software quality issue, leading to a multi-trillion-dollar global cybercrime issue. So, what do we do? Do we just give up? Do we let the villains win, just accept that we're all victims? Let the vendors off the hook, accept that software vulnerabilities are inevitable acts of God? No, we can't. We won't. I have a dream of a world where ransomware is a shocking anomaly, a world where damaging software vulnerabilities are as infrequent as the plane crashes. A world where cybersecurity is obsolete.
Cybersecurity? We don't need no stinking cybersecurity.
Okay, I am kidding. Mostly. We all have job security, but I do think we can make it much harder and much less lucrative for our adversaries. This is a really tough problem, but it's not an impossible one. We've gotten ourselves into this mess, and we can get ourselves out. We just need a shared vision, and it's not rocket science. We can look to many other industries for what they possess that the world of software inexplicably does not. The vast majority of other industries track defects and incidents that cause harm to use that information to drive down risk. The risk of driving on the highway, the risk of flying in an airplane. The vast majority of other industries are obsessed with continuous improvement, with eliminating classes of defect. Why? Because as it turns out, recurring classes of defect are bad for business. But that's not the way it is in the world of software. Just look at standard contract language when you purchase software.
Software and our affiliates make no warranties, guarantees, or conditions with respect to your use of the services. You understand that use of the services is at your own risk and that we provide the services on an as-is basis with all faults and as available. You bear the entire risk of using the services.
Sign right here.
The entire risk. Would you buy a car entirely at your own risk? Would you get on an airplane entirely at your own risk? But we accept that with the software that powers our daily lives, the software that underpins the critical infrastructure we rely upon every hour of every day. Unfortunately, we have fallen prey to the myth of techno-exceptionalism.
We are smart. We know more than you. Tech is very, very complicated. We have nothing to learn from the worlds of automotive safety or the aviation industry. Our technology moves too fast. We are not affected by the universal forces that affect all other industries. We have never measured the cost of secure software, but we can assure you that it would absolutely, positively cost too much. We just know it as an immutable truth. So please, stop bothering us and let us go back to our very complicated and important work.
You know, the truth is, my friends, we don't have a cybersecurity problem. We have a software quality problem. We don't need more security products. We need more secure products.
Say it again, say it again, say it again.
We don't have a cybersecurity problem. We have a software quality problem. We don't need more security products. We need more secure products. You know, last year we launched the Secure by Design initiative to get at this specific problem. It laid out a bold vision, a vision for the future where technology vendors create products resistant to the most common types of attack, products specifically designed to drive down the number of exploitable defects. Now, I like to call this the Secure by Design revolution, but the truth is, it is not a revolutionary concept. We've known forever that foundational principles of security will in fact make us more secure, but now is the time for us all to do something about it. It's the time to become that last set of characters, the visionaries. Now, 18 months after we launched Secure by Design, the movement is gaining momentum. We've been joined by 17 federal and international partners and nearly 200 technology vendors who have signed the Secure by Design pledge, committing to making material progress in 7 key areas, including increasing use of MFA, decreasing use of default passwords, and eliminating whole classes of vulnerabilities. But, you know, I should step back for a minute and say we are by no means the first to talk about Secure by Design, and we are by no means the only thought leaders in this space. In fact, for decades, there have been visionaries among us who've been building the case, laying the groundwork for the Secure by Design revolution, challenging the status quo to build safer products. I'm talking about folks like Josh Oz and Sarah Grant of the Internet Security Research Group, who've been spearheading efforts to rewrite critical open source projects in memory-safe code. I'm talking about authors like Kelly Shortridge and David Rice and Scott Shapiro, whose books have brought attention to the importance of Secure by Design. I'm talking about folks like Bruce Schneier and Craig Newmark. Bruce has been talking about Security by Design principles for as long as I can remember, and Craig has been putting his money where his mouth is and making the case to the American people for cybersecurity as a shared responsibility. I'm talking about security leaders like Christoph Kern from Google, like David Weston, Dwizzle from Microsoft. I'm talking about academic thought leaders like Gene Camp from Indiana University Bloomington and Jean Blair from West Point and Ming Chao from Tufts. These visionaries and many others around us have been building and championing development frameworks that make secure coding the path of least resistance. Just imagine you're about to create an unforgivable vulnerability, and your dev environment tells you,
"I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that."
But the truth is, to make this vision a reality, We all have to play a role. We all have to be visionaries. Yes, technology vendors can make a significant impact by building products that are secure by design. Lawmakers, members of Congress, can have a significant impact by establishing a software liability regime, one with an articulable standard of care and one with safe harbor provisions for those technology vendors that innovate responsibly by prioritizing secure development processes. But we can all play a role. We can all call for products that are secure by design, thereby advancing the secure by design revolution through secure by demand. See, we need both the supply side and the demand side. The reality is that any organization that procures and deploys software, and that's basically all organizations these days, can make a huge difference in this space. By calling for secure products, by asking vendors if they've signed the pledge, how they're prioritizing security. Leaders at all levels can drive this movement by wielding their enormous purchasing power, by voting with their procurement dollars. To this end, we just released a product that is Secure by Demand Guide for software customers, with questions that individuals can ask of technology vendors to understand if they are prioritizing security in the product development lifecycle. We also just released a Secure by Demand focused software acquisition guide for government enterprise customers to ensure that we in the federal government are in fact eating our own dog food. Collectively, we can all send a strong demand signal to technology vendors to take the pledge, to prioritize security early in the development life cycle. I urge all of you, check out the pledge, check out the website we have for Secure by Design. Use your voice, take an active role, use your purchasing power to advance Secure by Design by demanding it. You know, I talked at the beginning about the story of cybersecurity being at a crisis point. Well, we need to seize this opportunity to stop glamorizing the villains, to stop blaming the victims, to demand much more from our vendors, and to all be visionaries. That's how we're going to change the trajectory of the story of cybersecurity for the better. And maybe someday we can write out my role all together. My strong hope is that we can come together as a community to ensure that products are so secure that cybersecurity jobs like mine ultimately just go away. But until then, we have our work cut out for us. So let's go. Thank you.